I just literally did not see the brand and product that I wanted. So I made it.
And she's amazing. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Salon. My name is Taylor Caraway and I'm one of the founders of Happy Medium. Today I am joined with my friend Dianna Cohen, who is the founder of Crown Affair. I love Crown Affair. Crown Affair is a hair care company. We started our companies kind of around the same time, and Crown Affair is so steeped in art. She's such a fascinating person. She's an incredible entrepreneur, and she's somebody who really lives art every single day. So our topics range everywhere from brand building to kind of the art that she has in her homes. I really hope you enjoy this, and without further ado, please welcome Dianna. Well, welcome to the Salon. And thank you for talking to me. We're friends. I know you. Tell me who you are, though. Who you are, where are you from, what do you do?
All of the things. First of all, I'm so happy to be here. I would say this is one of my favorite spaces in New York, period. Not just New York, Manhattan, but like all of New York. What you've created here is so special, and we are friends because we started our journeys in terms of building our businesses around the same time.
Sure did. 25 years ago?
Yeah, literally 20. I feel like entrepreneur years are like dog years. I'm like, we're coming up on 5 years, and it does not feel like 5 years.
That's crazy. Your anniversary is like very soon.
Tomorrow.
Oh my God, tomorrow.
Oh, January 28th of 2020.
Oh, that's
so
insane.
I must have met you a little over 5 years ago because we were starting our journeys at the same time. So for those who are listening and watching, or doing both, I guess if you're watching, you're also listening. I'm Dianna Cohen, and I am the founder of Crown Affair, which is a clean hair care line, which I launched 5 years ago.
Which is my favorite hair care line, aside from us being friends. Because obviously, when it started, I was like, oh, I'm going to be supportive. And now I buy it for my friends. My mom, that's what she wanted for Christmas. She wanted the hair oil.
Moms love Crown Affair. I feel like that's secret. And what I love about it, too, is like sometimes moms will tell like their children about it. That's also my favorite surprise when someone's like, how did you find out about it? They're like, my mom. I'm like, I love that.
Intergenerational. You know, I read, it always has stuck with me, Vera Wang, basically grows her customers and like their whole life journey, because she starts them sometimes with a wedding dress, and then you can kind of like scale up with her. And so the sweet spot for entrepreneurs is usually having that multi-generational customer. So congratulations, you're doing it.
Thank you.
That's amazing. What I've loved so much about Crown Affair, aside from what it's done to my actual hair, which is incredible, but it's infused with art. And I have to start with the name.
Yes.
Tell me about the name.
So more literally, the Crown Affair had a love affair, which I think a lot of people understand. But the name comes from one of my favorite films, The Thomas Crown Affair. I love the 62 version. It's iconic. Steve McQueen and Faye Dunaway are like just beautiful. But the film itself is like a little slow, and it's a bank heist film. The 1999 version with Pierce Brosnan and Rene Russo, who has the best hair. That is like one of my favorite films of all time. I don't know. It just was like New York, sexy, 90s, cool. Art heist. My husband and I met at the Museum of Modern Art, how many years ago? 2013. Almost 12 years ago this year, which is crazy. We met at a Rene Magritte curatorial walkthrough, which we didn't meet in front of that painting specifically, but like the main context was Rene Magritte's Son of a Man. It was a retrospective, and every anniversary that we have, we like get each other a little gift, whether it's from like Etsy or like a cute pin or something like that is Magritte themed. So the name comes from the Thomas Crown Affair.
So you're like, here's this business that I've built into this huge business for you for our anniversary.
I know. I'm like, here you go. But it is funny. Like I originally was like, maybe it's a bit of a placeholder name, but honestly, it just, the second I started to like put it into things, I was like, oh, it feels so right. And then in addition to the art, which is very much referenced within the brand, there is like a subtone of surrealism in the brand, and I think that comes out in the whimsical elements. So even though we're not like a pure surrealist brand, I think there's like little Easter eggs throughout it that you'll find.
Tell me one.
I mean, a lot of our original campaign had clouds in it, which I know is not innovative or groundbreaking, but I just feel like there were little moments of like just the backdrops of Magritte, even in some of the early copy, was like very playful in how he titles his works. I don't know, a lot of the early references were just kind of whimsical. I think as the brand has evolved, the whimsy is still there, but maybe it shows up in more of a way that like Loewe kind of creates whimsy, or we always looked like Hermes. And exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I could write a whole book about them and social and how they bring whimsy into the brand.
Yeah.
I feel it. I see it in the references you have. Did you have any other names that you were considering when you were starting Crown Affair?
You know, it's so funny. I had so many people, including some people you know, who were like, it needs to be one word. It has to be one word. And some people like didn't like the name, but I say this to everyone, the name needs to have meaning to you. That's the most important thing. And I'm always like, I'm sure when Tiffany was building Drunk Elephant, people were like, what's a drunk elephant? You're crazy. But I would say like in the 2010s in the consumer space, it was very trendy to have like a one-word name that kind of sounded French. And I love that we both have businesses that are two words.
Two words. That's so funny.
A lot of meaning.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, like Everlane, one word. There was like that train too where it felt there was a French line, and then there was like the stuff that felt like just two random things stuck together that didn't have any meaning. I love Crown Affair. I got it. I had seen the movie, like when you first were, I guess, like not even soft launching it, but teasing it.
Yeah.
But from the literal sense of what it means to the crown of your head, I think that makes it perfect. So I love it. I'm glad you stuck with it.
Well, no, and I also just feel like it's funny. I've mentioned this before, but I remember being in a workout class and the instructor saying like lift through the crown.
Yeah.
And all the people in the room just like sit up a little taller. You know, it's like lifting through your crown. And I feel like when you have a name that also reminds you to change the way you move through the world, which I feel like Happy Medium does as well. It's a reminder of like how you show up when you're in that space or using that product. And I think that that's like a magic thing. It's not just like, oh, that's a fun, cute name that sounds whatever. It's like, no, there's actually like a real ethos behind it too.
That's amazing. I mean, and I don't know if you'd consider yourselves a luxury brand or not, but I certainly feel luxurious when I'm using it. And I do think that a lot of that also comes from the name.
Yeah.
And it's in my shower. Like I see it, it's everywhere. Well, great job on the name.
Thank you.
I want to also talk about that creative process. So one of the first creative directors you worked with was Shoshbuya.
Yes.
How did you meet Sho?
Sho and I worked together at Away.
Oh my God.
I know. He was our graphic designer. He likes being called a graphic designer, which is so funny because I feel like he is a remarkable artist who just, I don't know, he's amazing. And he's like, no, I'm a graphic designer. He's very Japanese in that way where he like doesn't want to be over elevated. But Sho and I worked together at Away, and he was amazing. He's one of the most thoughtful, intentional people I've ever met. He is so focused on his daily rituals. When we were working together at Away, he would like wake up and go surfing in the Rockaways every morning, and it's no surprise that he wakes up every day and paints in the New York Times.
Yes, this is what, for everybody listening at home or watching at home, Shoshbuya, years later. So became really well known for his like New York Times series.
Yeah. When we first started working together, he had no social following, but he was doing a series called Views from like X window. So he would do a tiny little window on the New York Times, but he was really focused on the days of the week, and he was just starting to play with art. I feel like it was one of those beautiful lightning in a bottle moments where it was like we were both on the same journey at the same time. He doesn't really do commercial projects anymore. So people ask me all the time, they're like, can I hire Sho? And I'm like, it's just not, it's not what motivates him. But he is so beautiful with how he thinks about brand systems and line, and just he really like walks the walk. And I think that's very much imbued within the whole Crown Affair philosophy of taking your time.
Well, actually, if we can go back also before Crown Affair, you had a branding agency, didn't you?
Yes, Levitate.
Yeah. Okay, talk to me, because we were talking, actually, I called you after we talked to our other podcast guests, were Garrett and Elizabeth.
Yes.
What did you do at Levitate? Like, what services did you offer? You were like a brand person through and through before you were an entrepreneur, really. I mean, that you are an entrepreneur, but what did you do at Levitate?
It's funny you mention Elizabeth and Garrett, because I feel like Sho and them are like great examples of people who can like actually execute on the visual literacy that comes to life. For me, I've always sat between like the idea and like the execution of it visually and how it's marketed. Because you can have like a beautiful design system and assets, but if like the story isn't there, then like it might work because it's beautiful, but it might not be, people might not connect to it in the same way. So I blame this on my art history major, but it's like, how do you look at something and like give it meaning?
Yeah.
And even better, how do you put meaning in something from the beginning?
Yeah.
But I feel like where I really thrive is like working with brilliant product people, and that's in my case too. Like I nerd out on hair care, but like I have amazing chemists and product development people who are super innovative, and then amazing people like Show and amazing operators. And then where I really sit is like, how do we build out a brand universe? So I was very much doing that before Crown Affair. I had my brand agency Levitate. I met Elizabeth and Garrett on Flamingo, which is the women's line for Harry's. So we did the full go-to-market, D2C, and Target, and just like making fun. Like it was actually kind of fun because I was working on hair in an inadvertent way.
Yeah,
of course, it was the removal of hair in that context. But yeah, I worked with brands like Outdoor Voices and Buck Mason, a lot of good two-worded brands, by the way, and a baby food company called Yumi, and just doing like go-to-market brand strategy for them.
Awesome.
But I knew at some point I wanted to make my own thing, and this is the category that I nerd out on the most, so it just made a ton of sense.
Yeah. Also feel like, especially when you were launching, like there wasn't, I don't think Way existed yet. So
there were a couple brands in this space, but candidly, none of them at like the performance level of the brands I was using. Like I was using Orbe and Kerastase and like all these legacy salon brands, which are still amazing brands and products, but from an innovation standpoint, especially 5 years ago, like it was the same hero SKUs from like 20 years, you know, and there absolutely nothing was clean. And you know, also my whole thing is like that no makeup hair, and I feel like so much of the hair care category was about the perfect blowout and like achieving a look, and I'm just trying to get one more day before wash day. So I really wanted to, you know, and you know, at the time I would talk to contract manufacturers and chemists, and if you went like, I want a dry shampoo, like you wouldn't get the Crown Affair dry shampoo.
Yeah.
So much of what I wanted to do was, yes, the whole brand universe, and it's a luxury brand in the sense that like it's beautiful, but it's also extraordinarily like conceptually accessible and very human, because like we're not professional stylists telling you to spend 2 hours. It's like, actually, if it's really simple and intuitive to take care of yourself, and the luxury that we're talking about is time and care. It's not just like the fancy thing. So yeah, I just literally did not see the brand and product that I wanted, so I made it.
And she's amazing and wonderful. Is art still kind of what is driving a lot of your creative decisions, or at least creative inspirations? Like now you've gone from kind of mood board concept product development into having this like really solid brand. You're in Sephora. You have a strong DTC line. Like you are a brand now. So where does art come into play these days?
Well, generally in my life, beyond just Crown Affair, like everything starts with art.
Everything.
Everything. Like I feel like if anything in my life, whether it's like a personal project or goal or professional, I'm like, what are the 3 to 5 images that I'm just such a visual person that it helps me put together like a visual literacy of what I want to create, whether it's like organizing my wardrobe or, you know, creating a new, I don't know, ritual in the morning. Like I'm like, what's the thing that makes me feel that? Is it an Ed Ruscha hourglass because I want to meditate? Or is it like, I don't know, a reference of like a cool jacket or something? Like I'm just a visual person. So art ends up showing up in my life in a lot of ways. When it comes to actual product development, we're very lucky to have an amazing team of chemists. Obviously working with Sephora, they have so many insights. So it's not it's not like art informs the PD or innovation in the sense of the product. But once we're clear on like what the product is going to be, literally the first step for me is like going to the drawing board metaphorically and physically to be like, what is this campaign universe? It's the most fun part of my job, honestly, because I'm like, okay, are we doing like something that you put in your hair before you go to bed? Like, what do nighttime rituals look like? Like, am I pulling references from like Goodnight Moon? Am I pulling references from like, you know, the Renaissance? Like, to me, it's like creating a world for every product is so important, and it's changed a lot since it was just like me and one person. Now it's me, and I have a new creative director, but that essence of who I am is always in the brand, and now it's like presenting to her a mood board and references, and then she takes it to a whole other level. Because I don't have that skill set, you know.
I mean, I remember because you did not a rebrand, but you wiped your page a year ago. And I was so excited to see what was going to come next. I don't know how much I can talk about this, but I'm going to be involved in a shoot that you're doing next week that has a really high like art reference too. And I feel like I learn a lot from you. People expect me to have gone to like art school, be an art historian. Actually, you definitely know way more about art than I do. I didn't get any of those degrees, but I did, you know, we went to MoMA. a year and a half ago to see the Ed Ruscha retrospective. That was really fun. Like, I had never really known about his work. Yeah, and so I think I've learned a lot just through kind of like the artists that you love, how that comes across through the brand, but also through you personally. So where did this love affair with art start for you?
First of all, it's so amazing hearing you say this, because as you're saying this right now, I'm realizing that my goal with art in general, with like my friends and community, to be like, this should be normal. It doesn't need to be scary. I think like going to a gallery or going to a museum can feel really intimidating.
Totally.
And honestly, I don't mean to be corny when I say this, but I actually feel the same way about hair care. And for me, with Crown Affair, it's about like demystifying.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it can be luxurious and beautiful and elevated and like inspiring, but it can also like, you can go into this space. Like, you can do this yourself. Yeah. I have no idea. I think it's just in my DNA. Like, it's full nature, because I love my parents. They're amazing, but like, they did not take me to museums. They don't collect art, and they like design. My dad really likes, vintage cars, and like, they're very design minded, but they're not into like art with a capital A. Yeah. My in-laws, like, they collect art, and they're very into it, and they go to all the things. So I didn't grow up around it at all. And I think just like, I don't know, when I was a kid, whenever I went to a museum on like a field trip, even if it was like an ancient Egyptian, I just loved it. What is it? The Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler. Like, I don't know. I remember going to the Museum of Natural History. I always loved gemstones. Like, I just always loved museums, even as a kid, and not realizing it. And then I honestly just instinctively would go back, because it was the only place I would go and feel like filled back up. So that was when I knew. And it wasn't until a class I took in 8th grade. I took an art history class. And
that is so early.
Only
in 8th grade, like, okay. Wow, that's crazy.
It changed my life. It was the first class I was ever actually good at, because I cared. I'm like, it's funny, because I'm so grateful I went to NYU, but I was kind of like a B plus. I was like a B student. I worked hard. Yeah. I was never like great, and it was the first class that was just like effortless, all A's. Crushed it.
Art history. Do you remember anything like that you learned in it?
Yeah, I mean, it was the foundations of art. So I feel like it was just like the baseline, like Greek and Roman and Etruscan and like baseline. Yeah. But we made these. Actually, it's so funny. I want to make one of these again. So I had like a massive sketchbook essentially, and I like filled it was like a scrapbook journal kind of thing of each era. And like, the book starts really thin, and by the time I was done, it was like, it couldn't even close. Oh my God. I had the best time doing it. And it's funny being an artist, which we'll talk about. Like, I've always been comfortable in like the collage zone, the mood boarding zone, and like the journal making zone.
That. Absolutely.
So even though I am not spending my time right now in like more quote like fine art mediums, to me it's like that expression is enough to like get my brain and my nervous system to kind of do what it needs to do.
I love that. Yeah. So you took that art history class in 8th grade. You studied art history at NYU.
Yeah, I just wanted to go to NYU, honestly. I didn't even know what I was going to study. I went to the College of Arts and Science. I didn't know. They make you take general classes when you go, and figured I'd figure it out later. But I was not one of those kids who was like, I'm going to Gallatin, or I'm going to do Tisch, which a lot of kids when they go to NYU are like very specific. Yeah. But the art thankfully the art history program is one of the top ones in the country. Yeah. And my professors were incredible. I'm still really close with a lot of people from that program.
That's amazing.
And a lot of those friends went into either they worked at institutions, Christie's, Sotheby's, or some of them went to like artsy and like early kind of tech places. A lot work at galleries now. But I was like, it was the Into the Gloss and like beauty and like internet of it all. Because I was such a Tumblr kid that I was like, I don't want to work in art as much as I love it. I would love to like be around it and collect it and go to exhibitions where I can meet my future husband. That was not the plan. But like, I always love being around art. But someone the other day told me like, do what you like, not what you love. And
I actually agree with that.
Yeah. And like, I obviously love Crown Affair, but like, I feel like I'm able to wake up every day and have absolute resilience, because it's like, if I worked in art, it might actually be soul crushing.
Totally.
Where like I have the resilience in a more capitalistic capacity from a consumer perspective, that it's like a different challenge,
I love it. Okay. That's amazing. So you worked it into the Gloss. First of all, Tumblr is collage. To me, that is like digital collage and kind of at the forefront when you think about art and technology. I hosted a class about the Fauvist painting era this weekend, and the whole thing that defines Fauvist era is color, and color wasn't accessible to them before because it literally didn't exist in that saturation before, because it was like chemicals that they were mixing together to get these colors. So I think Tumblr is art. I think collage is art. What are you doing now in art? So are you collecting? I feel like I just saw that you acquired a really cool piece. Are you starting that collection? Like, what's going on here?
First of all, I love that you taught that. I need to come to one of these classes.
It's my favorite one.
Yeah.
It's my favorite one. I teach people, but again, I don't have any. I also am not like a professional artist. I couldn't teach you how to do, we have a portrait drawing class this weekend. I could not teach that, but I can teach you how to kind of block in big colors and also be loose and, kind of approach it in a different way. And to me, a lot of the art isn't even technical. It's more about, like you're saying, like the storytelling, that to me is art. That's what I like about art, is the story behind it, the artist behind it, why they made the decisions they make. I also love the history of it, standing in front of it and seeing the brushstrokes that were made hundreds, thousands of years ago. That's crazy to me. It's like I don't know, a time capsule or like a time machine or something that you can see. Nothing else gives you that. I also go to museums all the time for that exact feeling. I don't know, I feel less alone. And
no, it's the best.
It's lovely.
No, but I think that's a good segue with going to see art and living with art.
Yeah.
So when it comes to collecting, I've jokingly, I've been collecting for a decade now.
Yeah.
But
You mean jokingly?
Jokingly meaning I would buy a print or or something little or something cool. I wrote a Substack recently on how to start collecting at every level. So even if you only have a couple $100s a year to put towards something, how do you make decisions where it's not just a replica of something, but you can actually buy a cool work on paper by an artist you like, and how do you even get in the ecosystem of meeting new contemporary artists? So it was cool to break that down, because I realized over the last decade I've been able to acquire a lot of work individually and with my husband.
Mm-hmm.
We collect together, but sometimes we collect individually too. It's been interesting mixing our aesthetics.
Yeah. What's your aesthetic and what's his aesthetic, would you say?
I feel there's a couple different aesthetics. I am very drawn to Japanese artists, and also things that feel very wabi-sabi and maybe are a little bit more minimal, or if there's color, it's more monochrome.
Yep.
Where he loves bold. I mean, he's seen let me just say this, he's seen every Marvel movie 500 times. So he's a little bit more into graphic and text and a lot of primary colors, and there are amazing works that we've been able to acquire together. The first one was this amazing matchbook by an artist named Skylar Fain, who's a New Orleans-based artist, and he makes these life-size matchbooks of places that are no longer in open in New York. Okay. So we have the one from Nell's.
Oh, yes.
It's amazing, which is the bar that Patrick Bateman goes to in American Psycho.
Yep.
My husband's one of his favorite artists is Robert Longo, and the illustration for that with Men in Cities. Cool. I would love to have a Robert Longo one day. But just
so cool.
Starting to dip a toe into that, and the work that I just acquired, I'd say is the biggest acquisition I've made to date. It's by an artist named Jess Allen. I'd been following her work for a while, and she's a British artist in her late 50s, and I'd seen the work online. I followed her on Instagram, and I saw it at the Untitled Fair this year at Miami, and I turned a corner and I just stopped in my tracks. And I've been a collector at the fairs the last few years, and I'm a Sunday collector, meaning I'm not the first one to bid. I'm not paying full for I'm gonna go on Sunday and be get an institutional discount, and also I live in Miami, so you don't have to ship it, kind of thing. But this on Tuesday when Untitled opened, within the first hour of the fair opening, she's represented by Nino Meyer Gallery in New York, and I was she's coming home with me.
She's mine.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful piece. We're going to put it on the line so people can see it when we're talking about this. It's also interesting because we host this large canvas painting where people send us their references so we can see what they're trying to get at, and she's the most referenced artist that we have. People have their own kind of interpretations on it, but that's actually where I first saw her work. So when I saw that you had acquired it, I was oh my God. She works a lot with light and shadow, which is so cool, and kind of almost the absence of a subject, but just they're there, but via their shadow, which I find so just interesting. Are you going to hang it in your home? I've talked to collectors who put it in storage, and I'm please put this in your home. Okay, good. Do you have a spot for it?
We do have a spot for it. It's the way that I think about collecting art right now is buy the thing you love, even if you don't have a perfect place for it. Yeah. I joke that one day we have an apartment right now in Miami. I'm we will buy a home for the walls one day where we have a lot more walls, but I do have it hung right now, not in direct sunlight. There's another work, because there's actually a space in the apartment that gets like the most beautiful but intense sunlight, and we just acquired a work by an artist who's been a friend of ours for a long time, Mia Ando.
Mm-hmm.
One of these beautiful like circular portals that she does with the clouds on aluminum.
Beautiful.
And she like paints on it. She's incredible. Like a perfect balance of both of our aesthetics. So like that's in direct sunlight, but you know, you just put stuff around the apartment, and we do have a bunch of stuff that doesn't fit where it is now. We do have a storage unit mainly for our winter coats, but we also have stuff in storage. And no, I love works like that. I love like just visuals of quiet life, and I think Jess's work, like the shadows on a couch, and there's another watercolor artist from the 80s named Mark Adams. Like I love his works. They feel very much like that. I also love like Lisa Yuskevich and like her use of color, which is a little bit bolder.
Yeah.
But I have a whole list of artists that I would love to and
God.
dream to collect one day.
I can't wait to come to the Dianna Cohen Museum. Even if it's just at your apartment to start, I'd love to walk through it. It's just such a different feeling to be able to see the work in person. So I think it's wonderful that you're starting to collect. We go back to your practice in mood boarding.
Yeah.
You also on Substack recently posted about manifestation and how you do it. And I was like thrilled because when I manifest anything, I'm more of a writer. I'm very much less visual. So, you know, Rhett, my co-founder / husband, he is the visual one of the two of us. And I don't know where to start with it. Like I've tried to get into Pinterest.
Yeah.
I think I just like can articulate it better with writing. And so what I loved about how you approach manifesting is so visual.
Yeah.
Tell me about your process with it.
Yeah, I love that, by the way. I feel like that's how you know you found the correct partner in life. My husband is the one who's like, and I'm the visual one.
Yeah, I'm
so
like, actually, I could do it in Excel probably the best, which is weird.
Bless your soul, because that's when I tap out. No, it's something I've refined over the years. I mean, I don't want it to be like corny, but the truth is like, there's no reason that I'm here doing what I'm doing. Like I've had to work hard and plan for my entire life to come to be. If you told me that I'd be buying a work from Jess Allen 10 years ago, I'd be like, are you crazy? I have like no money in my checking account, and like what is happening? You know, it's crazy, but it's been a slow and steady process to creating the life I want. I'm very lucky that I have invested in things like coaching and therapy and having a support system. I've always been an advocate for like having the best Avengers team around you, because I think the people who keep you accountable are what actually moves you forward. But yeah, I have a kind of 3-step process. The first is like, there's a few things I'm trying to think of where to start. The first is like high level, picking 2 words, what you're welcoming and what you're releasing. So every year I welcome something. Last year was abundance. I was welcoming, and then last year I was releasing comparison, which honestly I have made such massive strides, and this is why having like a therapist is helpful, because she's like, it's crazy like where we started and where you are. This year I'm welcoming higher creativity and abundant collaboration too, like moments like this, and not being such like a lone wolf.
Right.
Like I really want to be more collaborative and just higher creativity, abundant. And I am releasing my scarcity around time, because it causes a lot of anxiety.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's huge. It's ironic because of everything.
Take your time. Yeah, I was going to say, oh wow, that's a big topic. Okay.
Yeah, so those are the starting point, but I just kind of talk about all the areas of my life, whether it's, let's call it mind, body, spirit, but like everything from like wellness, health, family, relationships. And I started this process in 2018 and had like 6 things on the list, and it was like, wake up earlier, or like work out once a week. Now I have like 25 things on the list, and it's like specific to the T. Like, do this thing, get this TV, like, and some's professional, like really ambitious professionally, but you know, also just like how I show up with my husband, like spending more time with my sister as she's become a mom. Like, I think it's important to write these things out, because if you just think about them in your head, at least for me, like they don't get done. So that's the first process. Part 2 is visual. 1 is a vibe board, which is like, for me, it's like outer space and like things that just feel, or like a cool painting. It doesn't have to be literal. To me, it's like that's the essence of what I want this year to feel like. And then the third part is a literal board. So if I want to eat more vegetables this year, I will literally find a photo on Pinterest that's like a bunch of greens in a refrigerator. And it's like, is that a sexy, cool, vibey mood board shot? No, but I think it's important to surround yourself with these things, because you start moving towards them.
Do you look at it after you do it?
Yeah, I have it on Keynote. I'm a weirdo who uses
Keynote. Okay.
Keynote is like top 5 for me. I don't know what window in time. You know what it is? It's my old boss, Eric Katz, who started Seed. She was a Keynote person. No one I've ever met else. Like Keynote's my life. I do 90% of my work in Keynote.
No,
I know.
way.
Someone at Apple's here. I'm just kidding. They're hearing this. Yeah, people love Canva now. But yeah, I look at it when I need it.
Okay.
And then in my office at home, I have a mood board. Half of it is like core Crown Affair. That way I'm like always looking at my Botticelli.
Have I maybe seen it if we were talking and it was, okay, cool.
Yes,
I know exactly where that is. Amazing.
The other half of the board is like I rotate out every quarter. I know it's really fun.
Your range of references are just too good. Like too good. It's truly like the span of art, like all of art. I love it.
I think if you love art, it's important to surround yourself with it. And by the way, even if you can't afford a certain work, like I have works that are just up on the wall, and that's living with art too. It's obviously different, but it's important.
Well, and you pull references like, was it Fantasia or something like that the other day that I saw with the fairies and all this? So it's like that is a whole other type of art.
Yes.
Okay, so you've got 3 different mood boards. You're referencing them sometimes. It seems to be working.
It's working. It's slow, and it all like kind of carries over into the next year. And I think that like giving yourself grace that like you might have a goal. I have goals from like 2021 that I'm like just getting into flow with.
Okay.
So honestly, it was the artist's way.
Okay, yeah.
That changed my perspective on achieving things.
Amazing. Let's talk about the artist's way because I've done the artist's way. You've done the artist's way. We're currently hosting a book club for the artist's way. You're about to host one.
Yes.
February 1. Yes. And I'm going to send all my pals to you.
Send them over.
When did you first do it? Who gave it to you or who told you about it?
Okay, so I bought the book like 8 years ago. It was Harling Ross when Man Repeller was around.
Okay.
She wrote about it on Man Repeller. I don't even know if Harling knows this, by the way. I'll have to let her know that it was her. I ordered it, and then it sat on a bookshelf for at least 3 to 4 years. It was my dear friend, Court Roberts, who is just a magical human, who is an incredible facilitator. She had done it before. During the pandemic, she was like, who wants to do a group?
Yep.
And I raised my hand.
Always better with a group.
Always. Yeah. I've tried to do it alone. I always stop at like 7. Maybe it's because I've done it before.
Really far.
You need that accountability buddy. So I did it for the first time September of 2020. I launched Crown Affair January of 2020. Yep. So Crown Affair was live. I like brought the brand to life. Like I had momentum around my goals, but this totally changed my perspective on consistency, journaling, like how I think about myself creatively. And I feel like from that point on, let's call it the beginning of 2021 when the Artist's Way finished, that I've been living this life consistently since.
Do you do it once a year?
I do it about once a year. Yeah. I try to start it in the new year. I'm on chapter 10 right now with my friend Jessie.
Close. Okay,
yeah. So we kicked it off, I think, in September. Or no, we kicked it off in November. It was mid-November. I like that window, the mid-November till like beginning of the new year. That way you get a running start on the new year.
Good idea.
And then you can kind of close out the year and then like travel over the summer and not be as in it, you know.
And then come back to it in the fall.
Then come back to it, but like have enough time in the fall to get settled in.
And
like
then come back.
Now that I've done it a few times, I'm telling you that's my recommended sweet spot is the November to February window.
I love it. Cool. Do you have a favorite chapter? We just finished chapter 4. We just started chapter 5.
I feel like my favorite chapter is like chapter 2 or 3, whichever one that says the capacity for delight is the gift.
Yes, chapter 2. Love that. Such a great quote.
That I'd say like full enchilada is my favorite chapter, but there's elements of other chapters that I love, like when she talks about enthusiasm, when she talks about jealousy. Like it's hard to pick, and as you know, every time you do it, you're a different person.
Totally.
So
do you keep your notes from them?
Oh yeah, this is my religious text.
Yes.
And I have I have 2 journals. So I have my daily morning pages journal, which is refillable. So I just like use it. That's my go-to. But when I did it for the first time, I did it on printer paper. So I always tell people that like, don't be precious, just start. But this book, this is the 25th anniversary edition. I think that the one online now is the 30. Oh, I love that. I love that.
Oh my God.
But I have a big sketchbook that I do the tasks in. Okay. Because I like being more quote precious with it. Like I like going back to be like, oh, what did I think in September of 2020? And I, you know, like I'm in a planner in middle school or something, and be like week 1 and like make little things. So I like doing it for the homework and the tasks, but otherwise I'm just like word vomiting. And marking this up.
Yep. Same.
How about you?
I had I don't actually have my morning pages from previous
Yeah.
anymore. I do them in just like a spiral notebook.
Yeah.
Usually throw them away. You're not supposed to read them. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, goodbye.
Yeah.
I do have my notes and reflections. So we did it, the first time we did it was I did it by myself, which was hard. Actually, Rhett and I did it together. My Nana sent it to me. She had done it as like, she's like my spiritual core. She's like into tarot, into this, like into all that stuff. So she sends me my horoscopes every morning. So she was the one who sent this to me. It must have been also like around 2018, something like that. Also didn't touch it for a while. Then I picked it up and it would have been in 2020, COVID era. And I was like, have time, let's do it. Rhett and I did it together. It was really helpful. It was around the time that we were thinking about starting Happy Medium. I don't know when you were starting versus when you launched Crown Affair. For us, it was summer of 2019.
Yeah, same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it was kind of like a lead up. So I think it was probably around that time when we were like, what are we doing with our life? And like, are we going to do this? Or I don't know. It was really scary.
Yeah.
I always feel like this is a good tool if you're going through a big life transition or thinking about a big life transition. It's just like a framework to think about things.
Yeah.
So I did it by myself. And then Happy Medium always had been like an events-based company, but 2020 we obviously couldn't like do anything. So my solution to that was like helping people get through it. So I think our first group was like 12 people.
Wow.
And so I have all the notes from that one because every week I was sending an email with my reflections
So nice.
and everybody else's reflections to like the group. So I like for this next round, haven't done it since then, by the way. So it was kind of like a good pause.
Yeah.
But for this past round, I've been going back and looking at my notes for every week that I sent, which now I'm grateful I have them.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't have it physically, but I do have it digitally.
That's amazing.
And I have notes in the margins from last time too.
No, I feel like, I mean, to me, this is like, I don't mean to sound crazy, but this is like my spiritual text.
Yeah,
You know what I
totally.
mean? Like for me,
absolutely.
it's like you revisit it in different ways and I take different notes every time and I just see it. It's such a special practice, whatever you're going through in life. I feel like these are tools that I have forever now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's been really fun also to see the group go through it.
Yeah.
So,
what have some of the learnings been?
Oh man. I mean, I have the coolest job in it because I write my reflections. I send them out on Sundays to, there's probably 700 people on the email list. A lot of them, I have an 80% open rate. So I'm like, okay, I know y'all are reading this. Not everybody responds to me or like reacts to it, but I'm like, okay, I hope this is helpful. The coolest part that I get to do though is when we host the Zoom, I start it, I just welcome people, and then I split everybody out into breakout rooms, and then I just like breakout room hop. And so it's so cool because I can like go to different things and like the vibe is different in every room. Everybody, they're always like relatively serious or like intense conversations, which is crazy because like these are all strangers and every week it's different breakout rooms. So nobody knows each other, but I just get to listen in on like what's going on or add to it. I would say some of the biggest learnings. So we're only in we just finished week 4, which was the reading deprivation week, which I think I also take that to mean social media deprivation.
1,000%.
Because this book was written pre-social media, which
Very
is crazy.
aware. Yes, I know. Is it in like the 91?
I think so, yeah. And so that's the hardest week. I mean, what I've mostly learned is that the people who are getting the most out of it, everybody's enjoying it, but the people who are really like leaning into it are the ones that are going through the most personally. Either like I have a lot of LA people in it, and their whole lives are kind of up in the air. I have people like, you know, contemplating huge career changes or like huge personal kind of things they're navigating, and they're finding that this is helping them the most and like really how blocked they are as creatives.
I think that's the biggest challenge of the present day. And I always make the excuse of like, well, I can't really get off social. I'm like running a business and I'm checking in. But I was telling you this earlier, I needed to get a new phone because my phone was totally like not working anymore. And I don't have TikTok on my new phone because of the ban. If you're listening to this.
Is it coming back?
I have no idea, but it's not in the present day app store. So I still have my old phone and it works. It's just like, it was just spazzing out from like functioning on everything. And now I'm like, oh my gosh. This is, at first I was like kind of freaking out. I was like, how am I going to do work? Blah, blah. And I'm like, wait, this is a gift from the universe.
Totally.
That I now have a social media phone and I now have a phone for like, I don't get sucked in because I think as creatives, I'll just speak for myself, like that is my block is like, I can consume and engage and get dopamine hits and feel excited. And then I'm like, well, what did I create today?
Yeah.
You know?
I waste way too much time, if I'm being super honest, on TikTok. For the same, and I have the same excuse. I'm doing research. I'm getting ideas.
Connecting with people, but it's like 3 hours go by over the course, 6 hours go by over the course throughout the day, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah. 6 hours, literally 6 hours go by. You've been doing more like personal TikToks and personal Substacks and things like this, which I love and love to see. How has that been not shifting gears necessarily, but going from kind of like leading the business and Dianna as face of Crown Affair to like Dianna the person?
Yeah, it's new. It's new. It started happening like end of last year, like end of Q4, which is that the brand is just beyond me. You know, like obviously the essence of the brand, like I was saying, but if I just keep posting bonsai trees and Japanese Zen gardens, like I'm not going to sell a product to people who don't care about that. So it's like what I love in my taste level and storytelling, I now have a team to just make it so much bigger than me. And then of course I'm still like, I'm doing a collab post with Crown Affair tomorrow. Like I'm still very much in the brand and in the business every day, but I'm, you know, they're better than me at all of this stuff. So
that's amazing.
It's literally the greatest privilege that the company is where it is, because I now have a team of people who can like take it to a whole other level. And I now have this time to be like, how am I moving people in this way? And it's something I'm figuring out in real time. But I started Crown Affair because I wanted to inspire people and make all of our lives better. So whatever I end up doing now, and right now it's just a little toe dip into Substack, into like my personal journey.
Yeah.
Hopefully it inspires people, because just like you know, real people with a vision can make things. I think because of social, it can feel overwhelming if you don't have an audience or you're not a huge celebrity. But the truth is if you have a vision and a unique point of view and you just wake up every day and do the thing, like that is going to be so much more in alignment with what feels right to you. But you have to like commit and bet on yourself. So I'm hoping that whatever I do next, it will be like its own thing that obviously is in the same vein of what I'm doing with Crown Affair.
I love that. That is chapter 4, which we just wrapped. It's about finding your integrity.
Yeah.
And there was a quote in there that says, to have self-expression, you have to have a self to express. And I thought that was such a great quote. And I think in terms of like TikTok or, you know, comparisons and just like research, you kind of lose yourself, or at least for me, you kind of just like lose yourself, or like, what is my point of view, or what is it that I want to do? And kind of like sitting in silence sometimes, or sitting in stillness, or sitting kind of like in your own life and figuring that out has been helpful for me, at least, to try to figure out like what even to express.
I mean, I feel like so dialed in on what I like visually and spent literally my whole life until my late 20s. I mean, obviously Instagram existed, but it was different 5 years ago. Like, as someone who spent my whole life creating my own world and being so self-assured in my own way, I get distracted, and I'm like, you know, it's just so easy the way that these things are set up. So, you know, I feel like for the younger generation too, and us, just like stepping away, having time to process and marinate. I think that like so much of what defined me is like, I always say it was like programming from growing up. Like you didn't have a choice. You didn't have an algorithm. You didn't have like, we just had to sit and watch the things that were programmed for us or were available to us. And it's like, that friction actually informs your visual literacy as well. Like, okay, this is the only thing on TV. Of course, if I had to choose it, maybe I wouldn't watch it, but like some little inkling of that thing from that person's brain is actually really informative to create like something that feels unique and not so the same. And I think what's happened in the culture is like, we're getting the things that we like because it knows that we like it, and we're going to stay on those things longer. But like as a creative human, you're actually not getting inputs that are like in friction to what you like, and it actually creates worse art because of it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I have also heard that. Like we're just seeing more of the same.
Yeah.
So then going back to your art collection, like how are you discovering new artists?
You know, it's funny, like so much of it is social media these days, which is hilarious. Just because I'm spending time on there. But there's a group that I'm a part of called The Cultivist, which is an arts club, and they do amazing studio visits, programming, art concierge. So I'm constantly discovering through them because they're professionals and curators. So through that, and then like, I feel like once you're kind of in the ecosystem, you meet other artists through other artists, which is so nice. But, you know, I still also love the work of like established artists. And I feel like for me, even getting, for example, Ed Ruscha, who's probably my favorite living artist, ordering, I'm obviously not buying his, you know, original works, but like ordering books of his online and old catalogs from like the 90s and like discovering art that I'd never seen before, like that keeps it alive in me too, you know?
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, what's next for you?
What is next? 5 years of Crown Affair is this January, at the end of January. So a lot of team time, and honestly taking like a couple steps, inches back to be like, what are the next 5 years? Obviously we have the next like 3 years planned out in terms of like product development and, everything we've going on with the brand. But I think like the thing that's cool about Crown Affairs, because it is so me, it has evolved with me. So like even thinking about my own life and manifestation and vision boarding of what the next 5 years, like how does that show up for the brand as well? So just taking some space from like the day to day, still in it, but like the day to day and being like, what's the larger vision? And then I really love South Florida. That's where I'm from. I love Miami. More travel, more just like honestly evolving as a person and doing that work and tapping into the higher creativity and spirituality, which is like pretty new for me.
Yeah.
Well,
I love it. I'm here for it. Thank you so much for talking to us today. And cheers to more of all of this.
Thank you.
Amazing. Yay!
Was that good?
Yeah,
Oh my God.
really.
On the dot.